Well, it happened again. And a whistleblower from Newark Airport has now said it's not safe. Do not fly into Newark. I mean, it is absolutely crazy some of the stuff these air traffic controllers are saying. And then quietly over the weekend, we had the exact same thing happen. Yet another Blackhawk helicopter. Now, I don't know if it was a female pilot or not this time, but two planes had to basically conduct emergency maneuvers to avoid colliding with this helicopter. Again, this is absolutely crazy. I'm going to start with the Newark Airport whistleblower. Newark Airport air traffic controller offers damning assessment. It's not safe. Do not fly into Newark. By the way, thank you everyone who's helping bail me out. I sent way too many of these Coffee Brand Coffee gift boxes to Amazon. Mother's Day is this weekend. And even if you don't have Mother's Day, it features our top selling blueberry cobbler, our honey sticks, our yogurt covered pretzels are wildly popular and only available here. Chocolate covered espresso beans, a Colombian roast. It's $10 off with free overnight shipping. If you're in a position to, please help a guy out. I've got to move 1,700 of these by Friday. And if you already got yours, please come back and leave a review. I'll give you my word that after Friday, you will not hear anything more about these gift boxes. I promise you. I just got to move them. Newark, link in the description, by the way. Newark Liberty International Airport is, quote, not safe for travelers. One air traffic controller at delay-plagued travel hub reportedly warned. It's not safe. It's a not safe situation right now for the flying public. The federal air safety employee reportedly told NBC News correspondent Tom Costello. Really an incredible statement. Unsolicited, he said to me, and separately, do not fly into Newark. Avoid Newark at all costs. Costello recounted on MSNBC. The airport, which saw 24.3 million passengers, is the second busiest in New York City area, has been drowning in delays and cancellations for days. Federal Aviation Administration has blamed a shortage of air traffic controllers at the airport along with runway construction. Well, if you remember, coincidentally, do you remember that the FAA is currently being sued after it was revealed that they were actively turning down white air traffic controllers and that there were black folks who had the answers to the air traffic control tests and was giving those answers to black candidates so they could cheat on the tests? Do you remember that? Because Pepperidge Farms remembers that. The idea that there is a shortage in air traffic controllers is 100% connected to diversity, equity, and inclusion. 100% connected to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Federal Aviation Administration has blamed the shortage of air traffic controllers at the airport along with runway construction. Newark has lost 20% of its staff in just the last few weeks, according to MSNBC. The situation has grown so dire that United Airlines, which uses the airport as its primary East Coast hub, announced that it was canceling 35 round trips daily, saying that it was necessary in order to protect our customers. Delays continued on Sunday, with inbound flights waiting more than 2 hours before being allowed to land, meaning that these flights were circling for 2 hours before they could land, according to FlightAware's misery map. I mean, if we look at this story, many of you remember this. It was the FAA. Hold on a second. You think I'm making that up? FAA lawsuit, white. I think it's white males. Let's look this up real quick. Here you go. FAA faces lawsuit. This is back from February, so not that long ago, for turning down applicants for being too white. Remember this? The Federal Aviation Administration is facing a class action lawsuit alleging its hiring practices prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives over merit, leading to the rejection of over 1,000 qualified air traffic controller candidates. According to a report from the New York Post, The lawsuit claimed that the FAA implemented a biographical assessment tool designed to favor candidates with no aviation experience to meet DEI goals. Critics argue that this approach has exacerbated the nation's air traffic controller shortage, estimated around 3,800 positions below necessary levels. The FAA has basically decided that the students were too white and the schools were too elite. So in 2013, they knocked them off the preferred hiring list they had trained and worked hard to get onto, all because of their race, claims attorney Michael Pearson, who is leading the lawsuit per the Post. I mean, does anybody out there actually think that this isn't true? I'd say that most people 100% believe this, because this is exactly what DEI does. We all saw this happen in real time. Like, this isn't a question, you know? According to the attorney, 95% of the previously qualified candidates he represented then failed the biographical assessment questionnaire. Essentially, a personality test were screened out. Let me read that again. So 1,000 candidates who were white were on the fast track to be hired by ATC, Air Traffic Control. Then they implemented this, whatever, are you black test is quite frankly what it was. And 95% of them failed. So if you had passed through these 1,000 white candidates who were qualified for in every other way other than the color of their skin, one wonders perhaps how many plane accidents could have been avoided. One wonders how many of these, FAA, if this Blackhawk, incident could have been avoided. They had the training and the passion, and they were ready to be hired. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has also weighed in on the controversy, blaming DEI policies for shifting the department's focus away from safety and contributing to staffing shortages. Recent aviation close calls and delays have hired concerns that whether or not these hiring policies have impacted operational efficiency. Well, if you say we're short 3,800 air traffic control agents, okay, I think it's pretty clear that knowing that you turned down 1,000 people for simply being white, at least that shortage would be 2,800 instead of 3,800. And then just yesterday, on Thursday, it was just reported yesterday. Okay, this is reported. Nope, sorry, check that. It was reported today, Sunday, when I'm recording this. An Army Blackhawk helicopter caused 2 near misses with airliners at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport last week. By the way, that's the same airport that the tragedy happened at in the first place. After the pilot, including passing as little as just 200 feet from one jet, after the pilot took, quote, the scenic route to the Pentagon, according to authorities. The scenic route. Oh, okay, cool. The terrifying incident at one of America's most crowded airports comes just 90 days after the same kind of Army chopper from the exact same unit was involved in a mid-air collision with American Airlines jet that took the lives of 67 people. Officials and politicians were quick to blast the Army for the incident, with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy calling it unacceptable. On Thursday, the commercial planes, both Delta Flight 1671 and Republic Flight 5825, were rerouted just seconds before they were due to land at Reagan due to the proximity of the helicopter, the Federal Aviation Administration said in a statement. Both flights were on their final approach less than 2 miles away from the runway around 2:30 p.m. They were on their final approach. So there's no moving stuff around at that point. The Blackhawk helicopter, quote, took a scenic route around the Pentagon versus proceeding directly to the west to the airport. The FAA's assistant administrator for the government and industry affairs, Chris Shawn, wrote in an email on Friday, Politico reported. At one point, the helicopter got between 200 and 2,100 feet from the Republic flight and between 400 and 2,600 feet from the Delta plane. Think about that. These flights are flying at 200-300 miles an hour. Do you know how quick you close 400 feet? How quickly you're going to close 400 feet? In an instant. Quote, it's outrageous that only 3 months, 90 days, after an Army Blackhawk helicopter tragically collided with a passenger jet at this very same Army brigade flew another helicopter too close to not one but two passenger jets, both on their final approach. She called on the Pentagon and the FAA to give our airspace the security and safety and attention it deserves. During Thursday's close call, FAA controllers told two commercial flights to, quote, make go-arounds as they approached the Reagan National Airport. That is, break off their landings at the last second, circle back, and try again. Now, as you guys, many people know, my wife is a pilot. Go-arounds happen all the time. They aren't always necessarily due to like a close call. Sometimes there's an issue on the runway, or somebody hasn't cleared the runway, or, there's a lot of reasons why you'd have to do a go-around. But in this particular case, it was to avoid tragedy twice. The trouble came in as part of controllers temporarily couldn't pinpoint the Blackhawk's tracking position in real time on their radar screens. This is exactly what happened with the last one. This is exactly what happened with the last Blackhawk helicopter. At the time, the control tower only had one supervisor and 4 certified professional controllers and 1 certified professional trainee receiving training on the job. The Army was using its automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, or ADS-B, technology, which gives ATC up-to-date information about the aircraft's altitude, location, and speed. The radar track on board the helicopter, quote, inadvertently floated and jumped to a different location on the controller feed after being unresponsive for a couple seconds. The incidents were categorized as a, quote, loss of separation, meaning a breach of minimum safe distance between aircraft. Just so you know, if you were only going 60 miles an hour, you move 200 feet in just 4 seconds. If you are going 200 miles an hour, you cover 200 feet in just a single second, far past the amount of time any pilot could actually react. Of course, despite that, the FAA is still investigating whether the Army helicopter flight violated airspace rules. I mean, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Again, to have this happen just 90 days after the last time. Air travel right now, I feel like, has never been more dangerous. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you haven't yet, subscribe or follow. Don't forget your coffee brand coffee gift box. We'll talk to you again real soon.